mine. I only took it because it started to rain. Afternoon in the fall. This weather always makes me think about it all. The woman across me.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is my November reading wrap up. I've got my coffee and I've got my books. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. Before I go into the reviews, I'm just going to go through some of my reading stats because I've got my reading planner here. So I'm just going to go through the reading stats I collect for it. So I read 16 books this month. My favorite book of the month was probably Fated Throne, which is the 6th book in the Zodiac Academy series, I believe. I read 4,305 pages and listened to 49.75 hours of audiobooks this month. And I actually only read 2 physical copy books this month, which is not great, but I got a lot of books off on my ongoing series pile done, so I focused more on that than getting through my physical TBR this month. And then I read 9 ebooks and 5 audiobooks. So let's go through the actual ratings of all the books now. So the first book that I read this month was The Hookup Plan, which is the 3rd book in the Boyfriend Project series by Farah Roshan. It is a romance book. And it's sort of rivals to lovers. It's contemporary romance. It's got a bit of steam in it. It's got some important work-life balance topics, which I really enjoyed in it, and some complex family issues. It just had a bit of everything. I really enjoyed this book, and it focuses in on amazing healthcare worker, which I always think that, especially at these times, it's really nice to read about. She just loves her patients. She just loves her patients and her work so much, and it's just really a great part of the story. That's all besides the romance, which is also great. I think this was probably my favorite of the series, and I would just overall recommend it if you are looking for a enjoyable contemporary romance kind of book. I think I would recommend the 1st and the 3rd book. The 2nd one, you definitely would need to look at trigger warnings before you read it, in my opinion, because it does talk about some food issues, I think that's a one to look up the trigger warnings before you yeah. But overall, I gave this book 4.25 stars. The next book I read was my first holiday romance of the season. I read The Boss Who Stole Christmas, which is the 1st in the Reindeer Falls series by Jana Austen. This is novella length romance. It's very short, very sweet, not really that steamy. It was really cute. I don't know why, but I was really expecting all 3 of these books to be a lot steamier than they are. Maybe it's just because it's a Kindle romance, a romance on Kindle Unlimited. But if you are looking something fun to get you into the Christmas spirit, I think it's a great option. I gave this one 3.5 stars. The next book I read was Truth or Beard by Penny Reid. This is the 1st book in the Winston Brothers series. This book just made me feel all warm and fuzzy. It was just such an easy, fluffy read, in my opinion. There was really not, was conflict, but I just found it really funny. You don't need to take this book too seriously. Dwayne was such a sweetheart. He actually had some backstory still too. And Jess was also such a sweetheart, but they both were starting to annoy me at parts because neither of them, it seemed, knew what compromise was, let alone how to do it. So that really annoyed me at parts, but I really enjoyed the book overall. And I just loved that we got all the brothers and all their as side characters in this book, because that makes me even more excited to read the rest of the books in the series and get all of their love stories as well. Overall, I gave this one 4 stars. Oh, and it's available on Kobo Plus if you have that subscription. The next book I read was The Matchmaker's Gift by Linda Cohen-Loigman. This was one of our book club, our YouTube book club's picks. So if you want to hear all my thoughts, make sure you go and look at that video. It was just such a charming, like, I think this is the book that it's perfectly way to describe it as charming, but I just found it quite slow at the beginning. I think that's overall my thoughts. I gave this one 4.25 stars. Next book that I read was Alpha Wolf by Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This is the second book in the Darkmoor Penitentiary book. It's a fantasy romance. I actually read the first one for this book, like, before I'd even started Zodiac Academy. It's just one that I had seen that looked interesting, so I picked it up. So I didn't have any background knowledge on any of the characters, but now that I do, I enjoyed this book so much more because I got to know, I already knew like where Rosalie and Ethan and Rory, like all their backstory, which was really nice. And so it just made me feel more connected to the story and to the characters. These authors, they know how to write a good reverse harem story. Like, all of them are so good. Like, they're so good. But I just felt like this book was kind of slow in parts compared to what I remember from the first book, but based on the ending of this book, I know the third one is going to be super fast-paced, and I'm really excited for it. Oh, and I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it is available on Kindle Unlimited. The next book I read was If You Give a Jerk a Gingerbread, which is the second in the Reindeer Falls series by Jana Aston. Again, these are on Kindle Unlimited. They're romance novella length. I think this one probably was my least favorite of the series, even though I ranked it about the same as the other one. I just felt like it was kind of cringy, like Ginger's thoughts and the way she would describe things. Like, they referred to her as like a sexy elf talk, in which was, I don't know, it just made me like feel secondhand embarrassment for them. I don't know why, because it's just like, it's just fun, but I don't know. I felt like kind of cringy with this book, but I really did like Keller, and it gives like great British Bake Off vibes, so if you like that, then you'll probably really like this book. Next, I decided to take a darker turn and read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I think that's how you say it. Please correct me in the comments if I said that wrong. This is obviously a contemporary fiction book, and I just don't even know where to start with this book. I was pretty well crying like the entire way through this book. It just was so sad, and I knew it was going to be sad. I've seen all the TikToks, I've seen all the videos of people talking about how sad it was, but I still was like, this is so sad. Like, I don't even know, like, it was so much even worse than I was expecting it to be, like, in terms of sadness. But I did love the characters, and I loved like most of the characters. But the thing that is the most beautiful part of this book is the relationships between the characters. Like, it's just so beautifully like portrays their relationships. It's amazing. I definitely think that this book is worth all of the pain it puts you through, but there is a lot of pain, so make sure you're in the right headspace before you go into it, and also definitely check the trigger warnings because it's very heavy in trigger warnings. I don't know, I just can't say enough good things. I give this 4.75 stars just because, like, I don't know, I think just because of the pain. I don't know why I gave it not 5 stars, but yeah. The next book that I read was The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. This is the second book in the Girl Meets Duke series. I listened to this on audiobook. It's a like historical romance, and it was just like pure enjoyment. There weren't like a lot of, like, I just was just swept away by the characters and the story. It just really was a nice one to listen to. I kind of find that Tessa Dare is like, between this, like, I only have read 2 of her books, but I kind of felt like the characters were similar in a lot of ways to her first one, but like, you still, like, I can't help but love them. But the thing that like drove me nuts about this book was that there was the third act breakup for the like very cliched reason, like, I'm just not good enough for you, you're like better off without me, that reason, and it just drives me nuts when that happens. So I gave this one 3.75 stars. Next book I read was Fated Throne by Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This is the 6th Zodiac Academy book and probably my favorite book that I read this month. It's, again, a fantasy romance on Kindle Unlimited. I freaking loved this book, and it's definitely probably my favorite of the series, but oh boy, did it like really break my heart. It's like that ending. Oh, I like want it to be not true. I'm really hoping that something comes up in the next few books that like will twist it so that it doesn't actually happen. I don't want to say anything that's going to spoil it, but oh, the series is just such a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm like loving every second of it. I'm going to be really sad when I'm actually fully caught up on this series. And then I read The One Night Stand Before Christmas, which is the 3rd book in the Reindeer's Fall series, and the last one in this sort of like trilogy. There's 6 books in this series, but 3 of them sort of are connected, and then the other 3 are sort of connected. This one was probably my favorite of the series. I don't know what it was about it, but it just really hooked me in. I freaking loved Teddy and Noelle, and I just thought it was really funny, the whole like mistaken identity. It still had those cliched like cheesy jokes and like Christmas innuendos and stuff like that. But I don't know why, I just didn't mind as much in this book, and I really enjoyed it. So I gave this book 4 stars. Then I read Mistakes Were Made by Marilyn Wilsner. This is the other YouTube book club pick for the month, so I won't go too much into it. But so if you want my full thoughts, make sure you go watch that video again. The video for this. But I definitely ate this book up. I really liked it, but I was getting really annoyed with Cassie and Aaron not telling Parker their secret. The next book I read was Hidden Valley Road by Robert Kolker. This is a nonfiction book. I listened to it on audiobook. It was actually the book club pick for my like offline kind of book club with some of my friends here in Ottawa. And I gave this 5 stars just because I find it really difficult to give nonfiction books anything less than 5 stars, because it's somebody's life, like someone's real life, and I just feel like weird rating it. So I'll either not give it any stars or give it 5 stars just for like a blank slate. But I thought this book was really interesting, so I did end up giving it 5 stars because I thought it was really interesting and definitely worth the read. But it is confusing at parts because it sort of hops like back and forth in the timeline, so it is confusing to read. Some of my friends had the actual physical copybook at the book club, and there actually seems to be like a reference sheet on the front, which would have been like really helpful while reading it. So I don't know, I recommend the audiobook because I flew through it, but also I don't recommend the audiobook because it would be really nice. It'd be really, really helpful because there's 12 kids. It's very easy to mix them up. But like, I don't know, I definitely would recommend it if this is kind of your vibe. Then I read Defy Me by Tara Maffei, which is the 5th book in the Shatter Me series. I listened to this one on audiobook again. I loved this. I really enjoyed this book. I had a really hard time putting it down because I was just so interested in it, because it gave so much backstory. Like, it spilt the tea on like all the like the reasoning why the reestablishment set up a bunch of things in the first place, and it just gave so much background information on characters that, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting, went well with the series, and I'm just like, when I finished this, I was really curious about how it would end, which is why I almost immediately went right into the 6th book. But I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book that I read was The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand. I kind of feel bad because this book has like a cult following, but I just kind of thought this book was just okay. I first want to preface this by saying, do not go into this book thinking it's a romance. It is not a romance. It has romantic themes, but it is not a romance. So I think maybe if I just thought all of Ellen Hilderman's books were romance for some reason, so maybe if you knew that going into it, you would enjoy it more. But I just did not feel connected to the characters. I found it kind of weird that there was a ghost in it. It felt weird to me. I don't know, because I didn't feel connected to the characters, I didn't feel connected to the plot of the stories, because really the plot of the story revolved around all the characters. And I did enjoy it, but just because I didn't feel connected, it was just okay to me. So I gave it 3.5 stars. It's starting to get really dark because there's a thunderstorm going on outside, so sorry if the lighting keeps changing. It's just there's a storm, so it's going in and out. The next book that I read was Warrior Fae by, again, Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This is the 5th book in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series and the last book of that series, which I'm so sad about. I loved this book. It definitely was kind of it all wrapped up in a fairly predictable way, I would say. But I still loved every single second of it. I love these characters so much. I love them so much. I'm so sad that I'm leaving them behind. I'm really happy that Gabriel and some of the characters are still in the Zodiac Academy books, because it would make me really sad if I just completely left them behind. But I haven't seen Elise or Ryder or anybody in the other books. I've only seen Gabriel and Dante, or even Liam I haven't seen in the other books. So I'm really sad that I'm leaving majority of these characters behind. But I really liked the ending. I liked that there was multiple sort of epilogues, where you got each of their final POVs, and you sort of see where their life takes them, which I'm really happy that we got that. Okay, and last but not least, the book I finished the month with was Imagine Me, which is the 6th book in the Shadow Me series. And I was kind of disappointed in this book, honestly, after loving the 5th one. It just, even though I was really into the story, it took me a while to get into this book. But once I did, I definitely devoured it. I read it in, I think 3 days. I listened to it on audiobook. I loved that we got Kenji's point of view in this book, and because Kenji is by far my favorite character, but I do wish that we got Warren's point of view. I feel like that was really missing in this book. I also kind of felt like the ending was a bit rushed, but overall I enjoyed the series, and I really liked this. I really liked the series in general. So I gave this book 4 stars. Okay, and that's all the books that I read this month. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.
Trust me, she's wearing a trench coat, a bouquet of roses. I wonder what they're for.